down and listen to records. Smell the cover, read all the verses. Tell me about your favorites on vinyl and vision.
Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to our latest episode of Vinyl and Vision. I'm not going to try to make this too long, so let me just get through this real quick because I want you guys to be able to hear the full-length interview. The video is edited down a little bit from the original and full-length interview, so if you're interested in hearing a little bit more than what you see in this video on YouTube, then by all means find the audio stream anywhere you find your podcast, except iHeartRadio because they suck. So my guest tonight is Rick Pelletier, okay? Super excited to have had him. I was also very nervous to have him because he's just been an influential person on my life and my musical career and I don't know, my mindset, I guess you could call it. So yeah, I got a little nervous, so I'm sorry if the interview seems a little herky-jerky here and there, but he's actually turned out to be such an amazing guy, and I think that you can hear that as well in our talk. He's in the band Oceans of the Moon currently, which have a new album coming out on July 8th. So look for that. It should be on vinyl. It's being released by Castleface Records. So what else? Yeah, I love the record, okay? I've just been listening to it for days, and I was going to do a little review. I don't need to. It's a fucking great record. There's two songs that really stick out to me, which have not been released yet, so I'm not even going to really talk about them right now. But I think it's a really great record. If you like other projects that Rick has been on, including, Six Finger Satellite, Chinese Stars, La Machine, anything like those projects he's been in, you're probably going to like this record. So give it a shot. Go pick it up as soon as it's out. And this is my interview with Rick Pelletier. Enjoy.
Cheers, man. Thanks for the
Cheers.
beer.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming and, being willing to talk to me, Stooges.
Always a pleasure to talk about the Stooges.
Yeah, I mean, so you made the request. Whenever I have a guest on, I have to ask them what kind of record they want to listen to, right? And so you had actually, the first on your list was Chrome.
Oh, yeah.
Which is so hard to come by.
Yeah.
On vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
Anything of it, any kind of copies of it, really, I don't think, right?
Yeah, I don't know if any of it's in print anymore. I mean...
Well, I saw that Touch and Go did some reissues.
They did.
But
that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's
they
still
have it in print.
Right.
That was late 80s, early 90s. They did the Half Machine Lip Moves and the other one, Alien Soundtracks.
Mm-hmm.
Two great records. And two records that borrowed a lot from the Stooges.
Really?
In a weird way, yeah.
Because I wanted to find those records because I wanted to listen to them. Because I've heard about them now for a while, and I just can't get my hands on it. It's just, first of all, no one's selling it.
Yeah.
No one's reselling it.
Right.
And it's just hard, for the way that I have to scour for records. It's just a rare record to come up,
Mm-hmm. I had to search years and years for all of my copies.
Yeah.
I mean, being on the road touring and stuff, we'd hit record stores all the time.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I have stuff from everywhere,
Right.
But it was, even then it was a hunt, They were rare back in the 90s.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're rarer now. Although, I think Cleopatra reissued a few. There are definitely smaller labels that have been reissuing them over the years, but
right.
Finding them in print, that's the thing.
Yeah. I hit every record store locally just to check, to see, because I saw that they had done reissues, so I was like, oh, maybe they'll have one in there. No.
Yeah. The last one I bought was direct from, I think it was the one and only time I ever did one of the, I don't know if it was Kickstarter or one of those things, but the guitar player Helios Creed had a bunch of outtakes and studio, couple different studio session stuff from Half Machine Lip Moves and Third Stone from the Sun, Third Rock from the Sun, I can't remember. But so I bought it directly off of him, before he even made the record. I paid the money and did that whole thing.
Oh.
And I got it. Those probably are not in print anymore. I think it's called Half Machine from the Sun or something. It's a combination of the two titles.
Yeah.
But that's the newest thing I've seen that they've done with the old lineup.
Yeah. Well, maybe I can get my hands on some, but
Good luck.
I couldn't
man.
make it for tonight.
I wish you all the luck.
Yeah,
If I had
I
any
hope-
doubles, man, I'd sell you one. But
Oh yeah, no, don't worry about that. I mean, it'll come eventually. Now that I know to look for it, what to look for, because that's some of the hunt, right?
yeah,
You just go into a store and you see what they have, because every store will be different,
yeah,
right? And so you just kind of flip through them all until you find something, and that's probably how it'll be,
yeah. If you're lucky, you find like 2 or 3 gems.
right?
You know?
Or you can order them online.
Yeah,
Search them online. I mean, Discogs has everything.
yeah.
At least one copy of everything. They're just super expensive now.
It's expensive, and it takes a lot of, like you said, the hunt out of it.
Yeah.
I mean that I'm always going on old guy rants about the internet, but that's one of the things about the internet that's a double-edged sword, because it's kind of a drag, because it takes away that searching for something and ultimately finding it, and then bringing it back to your house or your apartment like a little squirrel, and
Right.
the whole excitement building up to actually putting the record on the turntable
Yeah.
is kind of lost when you just can
Yeah.
go Google button buy, yes, and then
Yeah.
it arrives to your door and you're like, oh good, and it's probably 20 seconds before it's out of the delivery truck and onto your turntable, which
Right.
doesn't sound that exciting to me.
Yeah, it's a different type of gratification, you know?
It is, yeah.
Because like the few records that I buy now that aren't for the business are like records that I seek out because I know I want it,
Mhm.
and then I actually just usually will order it directly from the label, because if it's a new record by
Right.
a new band,
Yeah,
I just
do,
go,
I'll
let's do
do
that.
the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I go to buyers or something, I'll try to get the label
Right.
first, or the band even.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes there's social media, you can purchase it directly off the band,
Yeah.
which I like to do.
Or
too.
if they're on tour.
Or if they're on tour, yeah.
Yeah, I would try to do that first.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes you don't know after a first show. You're like, what's that?
Yeah,
And then a couple weeks later, it sets in, and you're like, damn, I gotta get that record. That was fucking awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it it's the best thing to do for a touring band is to buy any merch.
Oh, yeah.
Because unless you're huge, you're not making any money, and every little bit counts nowadays.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, you're speaking from experience because you've been
Oh,
on tour a
Yes, and haven't sold anything.
ton. Had nights where you didn't sell anything.
Had nights and decades.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, you put in your time. I mean, I would say that you paid your dues, and so I mean, it like you said, like you're not making money unless like you're famous. Like
Right.
that's when you're selling enough that you can actually make a profit and come home and like that's your job.
Yeah.
But yeah, being independent, even at your level, like I think that you're at a pretty like remarkable. I don't mean that in like in a fantastic way. I mean that like in experience wise, it's pretty
Mhm.
remarkable.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem. Man.
I'm proud of the fact that I've been doing stuff for a long period of time.
Mhm.
Like that's kind of a thread that I try to keep going in all the music stuff that I make.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll
but-
also never stop. Just
and
don't,
never stop.
Yeah. Don't let life get in the way.
Yeah.
Keep on making music.
Yeah.
So that actually reminds me. I wanted to ask you, like, when did you start playing music?
I started playing music in the 5th grade. I don't know what age that is, because I don't have kids and I don't keep track of that sort of thing. But I started playing saxophone in the school band,
Right.
mainly because I really loved that song. What's that old jazz stripper song, Night Train? It has that sax line in it that's just really raunchy. And I think my family had like an old record of it that we used to play in the hi-fi, and I was just like, that's what I want to play that.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I did not ever come close to playing that, but
The
I
instrument?
learned a lot. Yeah, the instrument. Yeah.
Oh, or that piece, like you tried to like.
I would mess
Cover
around with
that.
the piece, but the instrument itself, I mean, I played it from 5th grade to maybe 8th grade, I think.
Huh.
And it resurfaced years later. I played with Landed a couple times, and I played the sax with them, and just
Oh yeah.
basically blew my version of free jazz all over the place.
Yeah.
Kind of like Scott McKay on the Stooges FunHouse LP that we'll be listening to shortly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, it's like a, you know, what a callback to free jazz players, Ornette Coleman and Lou Adler, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have to have a lot of skill to do that. I mean, you kind of just put your gut into it, right?
Right. But at the same time, you need to be a really fucking good listener. That's what people don't, you know,
Oh yeah.
don't get about improvisational stuff and even like just minimal music, you know, simple minimal stuff like the Stooges. I mean, some of the songs it's one riff,
Right.
but it's the variations of the riff. It's the band interacting with each other.
Right.
You know, there's a lot involved. You can't just hand some guy a mellotron and say, blow a crazy solo on this mellotron, man, like blow our minds. It's like not gonna happen.
Right. Yeah.
It has to be in context with other musicians or something like that.
In the style, at least.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean don't go out and try it.
Yeah.
You know,
No, absolutely.
if that's what you want to do, man, that's a great fucking place to start.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can just, because out of chaos, eventually out of chaos, free jazz or something comes out, you know,
Right.
like you either hit on a groove or a rhythm or something or themes. So it's not like you just,
I imagine that's how you come up with your own music.
oh yeah,
Kind of like jam sessions until something sticks, and
Yeah,
then you put that
yeah.
riff with another riff that maybe comes up on another session.
yeah, we play, Oceans of the Moon always plays like live in the same room, you know, so we as corny as it sounds, we just jam until we get into a good thing that we all like, or
Yeah.
somebody likes a riff or a drum part or a keyboard part. We tape a lot of this stuff too, so we can listen back to it, but that's how it all comes out, just, you know, throwing everything against the wall and then
Right.
picking out the kernels of corn.
Yeah. Well, you've been with the guys Dare and John for, well, okay, in this band, Oceans of the Moon. How long has that been together now?
I don't know, 4 or 5 years maybe,
Yeah.
I guess. We played some shows a long time ago. We wrote the record a while ago. It's been a very slow process to get it released.
Mm-hmm.
But, and we've played some shows in the last couple years also, but, yeah, I'd say about 5 years maybe we've been around. But I've played with John Loper since 1997.
Yeah, in various projects, right?
Yeah, and I played with Dare a few times also. He played in La Machine for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a group of dudes who just get together and jam sometimes, so
Oh yeah.
we always just cross paths, like either at St. Jake's house or,
Right.
you know,
Was Pat hosting them for a while? Pat Crump?
Pat Crump. He did. I don't think I ever made it out to
yeah.
his. I think he was living out in Lincoln at the time. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
it's like Cumberland neighborhood, I think, actually. So it's far north.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't really get out to those too much these
Yeah.
days. But
Right. I heard that they were happening though, actually.
yeah.
I never made it to one. I never got invited to one, but I mean, it's I heard of them happening, and because it was a big deal because Pat was playing too, and he had the carpal tunnel, I think.
Oh,
and he had
right.
some surgeries,
Yep.
so he hadn't just not been able to play
Right.
for a long time, many years, I think.
Yeah.
So it was fun to hear that he was kind of getting into it a little bit, at least just kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
get your chops up or something.
I haven't seen Pat Crump in a long time.
Yeah, well, he'll see you now.
Yeah. Hey Pat Crump. What's up, man?
So Oceans of the Moon has been around for like almost 5 years, and only now you're finally releasing your debut record.
Yes. We recorded it quite a while ago, like I said, but I'm not really. I don't know. I'm not really in a rush to do anything. Maybe I'm slow or lazy or something like that. But
Yeah.
we just kind of recorded it, sat on it for a while, and then talked to John Dwyer, who was from Providence, the OCs or OCs or whatever the hell they're going by these days. He called or talked to me somehow, telepathically maybe, and said if we had anything new, because he had put out the La Machine record a couple of years prior.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent him that, not really thinking that he'd be interested, because we hadn't really done it. We just did it to do it, because
Yeah, you record
that's
at
what
home.
we do.
Like,
Play and write the songs and then record them, and then
right.
you either release them if you know people, or if you have the money to release it, or you sit on them. I mean, I have a lot of stuff that I've sat on over
Yeah.
the years.
Well, you record a lot yourself, right?
I do, yeah. We had in Six Finger Satellite, we had a studio called The Parlor in Pawtucket, and we used all of our advance money to fund the studio, to buy the equipment and all that stuff.
Cool.
So we learned to record ourselves from total DIY stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I started out 4-track. Some of the other guys started out on a 4-track cassette, and then we just kind of moved along. We got a lot of help from Bob Weston and Steve Albini from Shellac.
Oh yeah.
Bob we knew. We had recorded a record with Bob, and he showed us a lot of stuff at the session. He was very open and cool about, showing us mic placement and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a lot of information off of him, and then Steve, we knew through Bob, and he gave us a lot of lists of equipment, stuff like cheap stuff that works well.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. This was before kind of like the whole home recording boom, where now any jackass can find and buy a Universal Audio LA2A tube compressor or something.
Right.
Whereas back then, it's like you had to know somebody, and the guy was out in, Idaho, and they would only ship it freight to, New York.
Uh-huh.
So it it was a fun thing. We got a lot of help from those dudes, and we taught ourselves by experimenting and recording records.
Right.
I learned a lot.
So what's the first recording you guys did on your own?
The first one we did was Severe Exposure. And
on
if you
your
listen,
own, that was yours?
Yeah.
All at the Parlor?
We did all that at the Parlor.
Wow, that's a great record.
It's a very unique sounding record, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that we had really crappy vintage gear,
Mm-hmm.
very limited gear, and we just went for it. I mean,
Yeah.
the mantra at the time was just like tape saturation. Just saturate the tape, which means you just bury the needle, if to get that kind of compression.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of that stuff is hot as what the fuck. So
yeah.
It's going through this crazy old board. We used I think we used a Fender Super Reverb amp just for like the reverb effects, because we didn't have any effects
Any pedals
for
or
reverb, so we just run the
processors.
stuff through the amp and then record
Right.
the amp. But
That's a technique now, actually, like reamping, right?
oh yeah.
Hmm.
That's a lot of the stuff we just did because we out of necessity. But
Right.
after a while reading about it, I mean, like Tape Op magazine. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
Oh yeah.
that came out like and really opened up a lot of doors for independent recording people.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I said, it's all become such an industry now. It's weird.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I wish I had the money for it, because I'd probably still be doing it.
Yeah. What? So you don't have I know the Parlor closed,
Yeah.
but you're still not recording, or you didn't have any of that gear, or?
Well, I have some gear, but it's such a basic, limited amount of stuff now.
Yeah.
The Oceans record we recorded with just a handful of microphones. And
Thank you for this, by the way.
no problem, man. I hope you dig it.
Oh, I will. I know I will. I've been digging the new songs so far. I mean, the 3 that I've heard. You got the 2 on Bandcamp currently.
Yep.
Is that the only place to get them right now?
They're going to be up on SoundCloud, I think, officially through the label maybe. Or
Oh, okay. Castleface Records.
Castleface, yeah, or yeah, I'm not really sure what the electronic sales will be once they come out. I'm not sure. I don't think Castleface does that. You know, like put it up on iTunes or whatever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they kind of leave that to the artist, I think.
Oh, weird.
Which is great if you're motivated and know how to go about doing that, but it's probably never going to be available online
Well,
if
that's
I'm
all right.
in charge of it.
Sell the records then, you know?
Well, that's what we did. That's what we did with the La Machine record that he put out, you know.
Yeah.
He gave us a bunch of CDs and vinyl, and we pretty much sold all of those.
That's how you make your money now. I think that's what Dan was telling me. It's like that's basically what indie labels are typically doing.
Yeah.
They just kind of give you a whole share of like inventory, let's call it.
Yep.
And then you just
And
sell
it's
them.
your
And that's how
responsibility to sell them. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
So-
that's a really good way to work, you know.
I guess so. Yeah. Keeps you motivated to do a lot of shows.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but you've been taking some time now. Just like you said, it took you years to get this record out.
Oh yeah.
So what are your plans for when it gets released? Because it's coming out July 8th.
Yeah. July 8th is the release date, and we will be woodshedding for the summer. So just practicing, trying to get new stuff together, and then tail end of the summer into the fall, we're going to try playing a bunch of shows. I mean, it's tough though because the three guys in the band, we're all full-time dudes, you know. The other
Right.
guys have families, they have kids, so scheduling is kind of difficult to pull off.
Yeah.
Leaving for any long extended periods of time is a little difficult to pull off, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a tricky thing. We're going to have to kind of stick around on the East Coast, you know, maybe do long weekends and shit like that.
Yeah.
But the days of getting in a van and leaving for 5 weeks at a time
Right.
are over for now.
Yeah.
You know, I'd never say never.
Yeah. It's
But-
tough, man. I mean, especially because you're starting a new project, putting out your first record. It's like you're gonna kind of be dogging it the whole way anyway. You know, it's just
Yeah.
like, I mean, you have a reputation, like I said before, but if you can't, like, because everyone's adults, everyone has all these things, the obligations, the mortgages, kids, and all this stuff. So it's like it's for you to pull yourself away from all that makes it so much harder. Like when you know, oh well, I'll be out for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe, and then I can't even bring home any money when I come back.
Oh yeah.
Because unfortunately, that is a big determining factor. It's
Yeah.
Like if you can't bring money home, it's just like, well, you shouldn't go out there.
Exactly. No. Yeah, the older you get, unfortunately, the money factor really plays into things.
Yeah, especially with kids.
You know.
That's the worst.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, so it's easier for you to say like, hey, yeah, maybe we can go out for 3 weeks, but then you got to check with the other guys, which sucks.
Right. It's the same deal. Like I only get so much vacation time a year.
Right.
And do I want to spend a vacation, you know, with my wife and dogs, or do I want to spend a vacation with two dudes in a van, you know? And at this point, you know, if I'm going to be playing to 12 people a night, the answer would be take the vacation with my wife and the dogs.
Yeah. I think she would appreciate that too.
She would, yeah, she would.
Yeah. It's tough. Yeah, man. I mean, so I you know.
But it's just, it's something that I've just been doing for so long that I can't stop doing it.
Right.
You know, I believe me, I tried. I went through a period of the past, actually since we recorded this record, I've been trying to break up the band because I feel like I'm done with it, you know. And I was just at a really low point, like pretty, you know, dark, anxiety-ridden, depressed place.
Yeah.
For several years, and it's easy to beat yourself up over creating stuff and not really getting any feedback for it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Like you start to second guess yourself about, you know, what's even the point of this? You know, like what does it achieve? And when you suffer from depression and anxiety, it's very easy to just say nothing. It's achieving nothing. It's pointless, you know.
Right.
It's very easy to beat yourself up, at least in my instance.
Hmm.
But it's something that, you know, ultimately I get an immense amount of joy from. And even doing it with John and Dare in the basement or in the studio, it's something that is so worth it. It's so worth it.
Yeah, it's gratifying for sure.
It is. I mean, all the other stuff that comes along, like playing the 12 people thing. I mean, that is so just an aside of the true, meat of playing in a band and creating music.
Right.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's just as gratifying as building a house.
Yeah.
It's just like any major achievement is just like something that you can just sit back on yourself and just say like, oh man, that's awesome. It's finally done.
That's funny you say that, because I'm a carpenter, so sometimes I think I see things a little too practically. Mm-hmm. Like, if you build a house, you have something to show for it. When you create a song or create a record, it's like a moment and then it's gone, Yeah,
well,
it's
yes
still
and no.
out there.
Right.
It's still out there, but it's not like you can't take a loan out on a record. Trust me, I've tried. You can't live under a record.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that stuff would really, I'd go back and forth on that kind of stuff.
Right.
Just the practicality of using your time for one thing, and then the kind of, I don't know, the happiness or the joy of using your time to make music.
Right.
No matter how simple, ridiculous.
Right. Well, I think the takeaway from that, or at least what you should take away from it, is not what was the value of what I made that's in the past. It's that it's in the past and it's all there. And it's like a solid piece, It's like you have been able to record many records and put them out, and over the time span of since 1990. Yeah, 1990.
Yeah.
But and just kind of put out so many good pieces of work, and then to share with the world, and the world has them now, and they can listen to them in some way. Maybe it's not financially benefiting you. Maybe it's not that they're these people are still buying the record, or if they buy the record now, the money doesn't go to you.
Right.
It's someone that's reselling the record, or the record company that might still have copies.
Right.
I don't think anyone's reissuing them. They're not being reissued yet.
I'm willing to bet that those won't get reissued ever.
Well, you're in high demand. These, the Six Finger Satellite records, some of them.
Oh God, I don't know what some of those sellers are thinking. I saw one for $1,000, a severe exposure for $1,000.
Yeah.
And I said, some idiot is going to be drunk one night and buy it now, and they're going to fuck everything up for the rest of the people.
It's funny that you said it that way, because I used to do real estate, and that's the way I've been looking at record resales. It's like the real estate market.
Oh yeah.
It's like trying to sell a house. You take this record, and it's just depending on the condition of that record will determine the value of it. Yeah. And what someone would be willing to pay for it.
Yeah. It's a fucking record. That's so bizarre.
Well, yeah, but I mean, okay, so then there's the rarities, there's the weird, misprints, or just the actual limited editions of stuff that's only, only so however many handmade copies. I think the one you're talking about was the, what's it called? Fucking, your cassette release of the,
the
Machine Cuisine, the rarities and the outtakes tape. Mm-hmm. You made, because you made those handmade, right? Yeah,
that was all four track stuff, and then I say we, but actually Jay Ryan, the singer, kind of took on that project, and he pretty much, we had all the cassettes made up, and he just put them together and shipped them out for a year. Mm-hmm. And then once they were gone, they were gone.
Right.
And then Eric Paul from Psychic Graveyard. Currently Psychic Graveyard. He had a label called Anchor Brain, and they re-released that cassette.
I saw that,
which was cool. But then also that was a very short run, out of print again. Mm-hmm. So Yeah, we're really good at, or I'm really good at getting in those short run, really hard to find records that
Handmade.
handmade that no one will see. Yeah.
I have a La Machine CD in the house.
Oh, nice!
From
like
2001.
The old white ones.
The DVD-R.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was fun.
I tried to rip it into my computer.
No. Oh God, yeah, those things were burned on like an old PC, you know, from probably like a 2003 PC.
Well, it's funny because I ripped it, like it read it. It won't play it now.
Yeah.
But it read it, and it read it as Johnny Cash Columbia Radio Hour.
It comes up as weird. It's always random when it comes up like on iTunes for a title. I don't know why. I didn't, at the time, I had no idea how to insert data onto CDRs, you know.
Oh, okay.
I was just burning these things myself. I had my neighbor upstairs, Neil Burke, print out those one cards for the inserts, and then we just self-released, like, I don't know, we had like 5 or 6 La Machine records that we just put out ourselves, and then we'd sell them at shows, sell them at local record stores.
And just put out like a dozen at a time or so, or like...
Yeah, I don't even remember the counts. Probably not more than 20 a copy, though.
Yeah, I can imagine that getting
so
really
those
tedious.
Are rare as a motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, I've done some of that stuff myself, and it's just like, you never make more than like 50.
Right, yeah.
Just because it's taking up your time. It's just like, I don't feel like doing this anymore.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah, I mean, when I made them, I had a big sheet of paper or card stock that Neil printed all the things on, so every one I make, I'd have to hand cut everything, put it in the thing, you know. So, not large numbers, you know.
Right.
Not Sony Records style.
No, that makes it a lot easier. So, like we were saying, like, you know, you have a, what do they call it? Your discography, your catalog. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, that's actually like one of the things that drew me to you in the first place, was that, like, oh yeah, I've been listening to something that he's been doing since like the late 90s. For me, late 90s.
Yeah.
Because that's when I started getting into like noise rock and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've always kept damn good company as far as musicians go, so I wind up on a lot of interesting stuff to me.
Right.
I love the shit that I've recorded.
Right.
I don't mean that in a egotistical way, but
even in the parts that you've done, because it's not necessarily like, you know, something that you've written completely, but that you just appear on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, contributing. That's the thing. Is it's all contributing.
Right.
Whenever you're in a room with a bunch of musicians, no one can say this is all me, you know, unless you're fucking James Brown or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Which those people do exist.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they're usually crazy, but yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, when I was doing the research on your catalog, Fred Schneider came up.
Yes.
You played on his record?
Yeah. That's that. Oh man.
What did you do on the record? I haven't listened to it.
In the mid '90s, Fred Schneider wanted to make like a rock record, rock record.
Oh, okay.
And he was listening to a lot of indie rock at the time, I guess. Somehow he got in contact with Steve Albini, who we were friends with. He recorded the Six Finger Satellite record, Machine Cuisine. And then we just knew him from touring with Shellac and those guys being so helpful with the recording in the studio.
Right.
But he called Steve Albini and said, you know, I want to make this rock record. Can you suggest some musicians or do something? And they wound up settling on putting together 3 different bands. So there was like one group that had some of the guys from maybe John Spencer Blues Explosion, and then one group had some of the guys from Shadowy Men on a Shadowy Planet, I think, and then there was Six Finger Satellite, and we played 2 songs on that record. We got these cassettes of demos of songs that he wanted to do that were written by some dudes. I want to say one of the songs, there's some weird connection with one of the songs where it was written by a guy who was also a collaborator with Gary Lucas from Captain Beefheart and the Magic Band, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then another song might have been written by Steve Cook.
Steve Cook?
From the Sex Pistols.
Yeah, okay. Just before you said that, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some weird stuff about who wrote the songs. But anyway, they were interesting songs. So we just did our thing with them. We made them really herky jerky and threw synthesizer all over it. And then Fred came in and sang. And so we saw he came and watched us play live a couple times in New York City, and then we did like a rehearsal in a space in New York City a couple days before the session, and then we went to a studio in Brooklyn and recorded the songs in like 2 days maybe, and it was fun. It was so fun. Fred was so awesome.
Yeah.
Like him and his manager, they were just so cool. They had tons of crazy stories. I mean, Steve was working the board, and helming the recording, so it was fun. It was, it was learning stuff, left and right.
And just hanging out with these awesome dudes.
And hanging out with these awesome dudes, yeah. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. Well, see, that's exactly what I mean, man. Like, you have that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's a fun thing to look back on and kind of have in the old memory banks.
Yeah, for sure. So I was going to ask you, you said you played sax from around 5th grade through 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't dig it? You didn't feel like you were getting any better at it?
Oh, well, I discovered, rock and roll and heavy metal and stuff like that.
So you picked another instrument?
I picked the drums, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I went
that's
from
your primary?
saxophone to drums, yeah. And then I did the whole marching band thing in high school and jazz band playing drums, which are fun lessons on what not to do. But you still learn stuff from that. But yeah, so then I played drums from 9th grade to 12th grade, and then rather than going to college, I mean, who the fuck wants to go to college, right?
Yeah.
I joined Six Finger Satellite, right out of high school.
Yeah, and that brought up another question, actually. You were not the original drummer for Six Finger Satellite.
I was not, no.
So
there were actually 2 drummers before me. One guy when they just started and they were just kind of like feeling things out, and then they had another guy, Doug Allen, who recorded their very first demo tape, which actually Ben Barnett is going to be releasing that soon.
Oh yeah?
Six Finger Satellite Probe, I think it's called, maybe.
Yeah.
And then there was something else on that too. It was Probe, and then there was another recording
that they're going to release simultaneously, like on the same. They're going to make it a compilation.
Yeah, maybe it's Weapon, which is the first record that we did. I can't remember. It's been so long since I talked to Ben about this.
Okay.
But
those are the first 2 listed here for
singles. It might be those. So he's going to be re-releasing those.
Cool.
Which is awesome.
On everything, like cassette, vinyl?
Probably just vinyl, I'm thinking.
Okay.
But I don't know.
That's all right. That
yeah.
was good.
Yeah. It's never been on vinyl. Well, the Weapon has, but
yeah,
the Probe thing hasn't been heard that much. It's really interesting. It was a different thing in and of itself, really. But great stuff.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear it again.
Me too. I've never heard it before.
Yeah, not too many people have.
Yeah, on Discogs they didn't have any.
Of what?
Because on Discogs you can check each release.
Oh yeah.
Because these were not on a label and they were self-produced, and obviously there's only like 50 copies floating around.
Right. That stuff won't show up.
Yeah. I mean, and they didn't have any history on it, which means no one has ever sold one.
Right.
The Machine Cuisine, the rarities tape.
Yeah.
That had sold for $100.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn, I wish I had.
And there's only one other person that was selling one.
Yeah.
That had one listed. So, yeah, pretty desirable, I would say.
I should get a cassette dubber and start pirating my own cassettes. $100? $100?
Yeah, not bad. Sell a few of those. It's good. That'll make a mortgage payment.
Yippee!
So you started on drums.
Yeah.
And then you joined. So you got past the 2 drummers. Doug Allen the second. You are the 3rd drummer.
Right.
And you started in what, 92?
No, like 90, I think.
So like it was right after the band started, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it might have been. Jeez, I want to say I started playing with those guys in like maybe September 1991, maybe. Yeah, that makes a little more sense.
Okay.
No, it was 90. Yeah, it was 90.
Did you record on the Weapon? Did you play on it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, because that was released in '91, so
yeah, we
that
all
had
kind of
been
co-wrote those songs. We would write like the same way. Everybody would jam in a room, and then we'd whittle down ideas and arrange it. You know.
right.
But yeah, that was the first record that I was on with those guys. That was fun. That was a lot of fun.
So
I listen back to that sometimes, and I hear the drumming, and I'm like, how the fuck was I able to play like that fast?
Oh yeah.
I mean, to me, that's fast. That's probably the fastest I've ever played drums ever. I mean, I was 18 or 19 years old, so
hard. Yeah, but you play hard too.
I did, because those guys play loud.
Yeah.
You know? It was all half stacks and SVTs, so
Right.
there was no room for pussyfooting around, you know.
Right. Well, you know, I think it's funny because I don't know how you feel about this or if you even thought about it, but you have, this band and you have probably influenced Providence music and musicians ever since. Because even your playing style, like, I think I know the history too well as far as like Providence music is concerned, but from what I know, that style of what you played, that I guess you still do if you play drums. Like I think of all these other like local bands that play in the same style of music. You know, like Brian Dufresne, who ended up playing for Six Finger later on. You know, Craig Keurig of Arab on Radar. Brian Chippendale to a degree. He kind of has his own little thing. He moves a little faster.
Has his own little thing.
But it's kind of that same like just bombastic and like really like fast paced and hard hitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I mean I think I'm definitely part of that. I'm not sure about how much influence goes, but I think a lot of that was born from just the scene in Providence and the music that everyone was making in Providence, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, especially that scene, like the kind of late 80s, early 90s kind of club scene, and then into like the kind of RISD, Fort Thunder,
Noise rock
kind
scene.
of noise rock scene, yeah.
Like
I mean, I can't really remember
whatever.
when the noise rock kind of became synonymous with Providence, but
Right.
But there's definitely that's a very thick vein that runs through the
Right.
music of Providence.
Oh yeah.
And I think we were just part of it. We were kind of mining that territory when we started, and we sort of kept it going. And then I've always surrounded myself with musicians that are on that same tip, you know. So
Right.
like the guys from Landed and you know, OSS, the Arab on Radar, Doomsday Student, Made in Mexico. You know, I mean, you can
Right.
go on just making these connections all
Right.
over the place, because Providence is a really fucking small town.
Yeah, it's very incestuous.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, every time I talk about that stuff, I'm just like, oh my god. There was a show that we played one time, and there was a bill that we played, and I played on 3 of the bands on like a 4-band bill, and I was like, this is fucking sad.
The same night?
Just the
Or
same
you
night,
had
yeah.
to- all right.
Like La Machine played, I think Landed played, and I think Six Finger Satellite played. It might have been a Halloween show or something, but it was just ridiculous because it was
Right.
like triple duty. And I'm going, man, I'm too old for this shit. And that's when I was in my fucking 20s.
Yeah. Yeah, well that's kind of a lot for anybody. Three sets, like 2 is already kind of pushing it. So 3 is kind of a lot.
Yeah.
And you're the drummer.
3 is just being a pig.
Yeah. You're just being a show off, really.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I can do this for 3 sets.
Eat my dust.
Yeah.
Oh, to be young again.
So then when did you change over to the other instruments? Because you obviously had played guitar for... You played all. Guitar, bass. You sang
Well, you know,
out.
it's funny because I started playing drums, and then I learned... I mean, I had always fucked around with electric guitar ever since I was in high school. But I started out on drums, and then I really enjoyed bass playing, so I started getting serious into playing bass, and that's how like La Machine started.
Oh, okay.
And then I kind of parlayed that bass stuff into this band, the Chinese Stars,
Mm-hmm.
which is another, like if you go through all the incestuous Providence lines,
Right.
it's another one of those bands. And that was a lot of fun, and I really dug it, you know.
Yeah.
And then after the Chinese Stars, I left the Chinese Stars. Jay Ryan and I decided to do another project, and it kind of turned into a satellite project, and I just started playing guitar. And I mean, I had wanted to play guitar, and like I said, I had been playing guitar for a long time, but I think just at that point in time, I was confident enough to say, I can fucking pull this off.
Cool.
And I think for those shows in that record, I did.
Yeah.
Pull
And
it off.
so why? I mean, not that I think that you did grow up good. I actually bought the Good Year for Hardness record.
Yeah.
And then Half Control, I kind of missed it. I don't know what happened to it.
That was a weird record too. That was like another one of those records that sat in a can.
Right.
You know,
Recorded in 2001,
classic.
released 2009.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the story of my fucking life. La Machine, recorded in 1997, released 2013.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Is that the longest gap you've gone? Like the
I don't know. I'm trying to
can send.
It's like records I'm trying to set. You know, how long can I go?
Do you have stuff in the
sitting
can right now?
Recording? There's actually a song on the Oceans of the Moon's record. There's a song called "Blowing My Mind" that started off as a La Machine song. And John and I wrote that in 1999.
Oh shit! Wow.
And we were just kind of hard pressed for material, so we started playing it live, and it turned into something. And we were like, "Fuck it, let's just put it on the record."
And now it's the
and
single.
Now it's the video for the record. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. Time. I love the way time blurs certain things like that. You know.
Yeah. Well, it's cool that it's there. It's part of
Yeah.
of the catalog. You know.
Yeah.
And it's going to be great. I mean, I can't wait to put it on. You know. But
Yeah.
I'll have to do that tomorrow. So let's see. I kind of want to move on just because we're gonna run out of time. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Yeah. Whatever.
This is actually not a very long record,
No.
so that'll work in our favor. But I'll ask you that when we play the record. So as far as the discography is concerned, I'm not too familiar with everything that you've released. I mean, I haven't even listened to all of the Six Finger Satellite records. So then on top of all the other projects and stuff, but let's just think about Six Finger for right now.
Okay.
Of all the recordings all the records that you put out, which it looks like it's seven full length
For the satellite?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
How do you feel like there's anything that would contribute directly, or did you make a conscious effort with you in the band, obviously, to change up the sounds on those records and make them sound different? Or do you feel like there was like a difference in sound, like for every record?
At the very beginning, I think we were very conscious of throwing things on their ear and just really messing with stuff. And then, you know, we kind of got into our most stable lineup with James Apt, and we made three records, an EP, and a couple singles. And I think that band, even though the records sound different, I think that band has a very cohesive kind of vibe to it, you know. So to me, like Severe Exposure, Paranormalized, and Law of Ruins, those three records are kind of like sort of the same record, but just different in different points in time.
Yeah.
In a weird way.
Yeah.
But a lot of it too had to do with the fact that, you know, we were recording the stuff ourselves. We were learning how to do it. So inevitably the shit was going to sound weird and different, you know. It was an adventure each time we'd embark on a record, you know. It's just like, you know, we'd obviously want it to sound better than the last, you know, sonically, and the intensity and the feeling and stuff like that, you know. But I don't know.
Just kind of how it came out, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff, as weird as it sounds, a lot of that stuff that we did was really organic. Like, we didn't spend a lot of time slaving over it, and we didn't pick it apart. I mean, a lot of it was just very born out of very simple, repetitive grooves that we just sort of. I mean, and the other thing too was like the kind of competition that we had within the band of each player really wanted to just one up the next guy, so we just come up with these insane parts to kind of challenge the other people in the band. And I think that kind of like made for a good tension creation kind of, you know, cocktail that worked for us. But I mean, a lot of that stuff, you know, like we listened to the Stooges a lot. We were very influenced by the Stooges, and I mean, a lot of those satellite songs are just sometimes just one riff grooves, you know, like the great Stooges songs, yeah. I don't know. That was good. Those were good times.
Yeah, I bet, man. So with that being said, I wanted you to have this.
Yes.
So you brought your own copy. What copy do you have? Do you know like what pressing, like from what year it is, or?
Well, I have a copy that is it's an import, I think. But the thing, yes, it's not. It doesn't have. Does this have the gatefold?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a newer reissue.
Yeah, my wife had this copy. Oh, I love it. Just for this.
This sold in pounds, huh?
Just for that. I thought I bought that in Amsterdam, but I must have bought it in London.
Maybe you did, but
that's beautiful right there.
Look at those sexy guys.
How many bands have tried to rip off this promo photo right here? I think I was in one or two bands that actually tried to do that.
Yeah, man. Well,
but that copy just has sentimental value because I bugged out to Europe in the when I was like 19 or something.
Yeah. And
bummed around and bought a bunch of records, and that was one of the records. So.
Yeah. Wow. This looks like a German copy. Made in Germany.
Yeah. The
WEA Music GmbH thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen a few foreign pressings, and that's always like what they have on them. It was cool.
Yeah,
it's great shape too, man.
It was brand new too.
You obviously take very good care of your stuff.
Shrink wrapped. Yeah. I live in a humid place though, so you can see little spots of mildew growing on that.
You have cats?
I do not. I have dogs though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate my cats. I mean, I love them. They're good cats, but yeah, they just get their fur and everything. Especially the records, you know, and that's a drag.
Yeah. Did you?
Super nice copy though, man.
Yeah, I like that one. My wife, like I said, my wife
keep
had
that out
this.
because we got to play that.
Oh, we got to play it, right?
Did you take the record out?
I did not.
It's a 2017.
Ooh, so it's a nice 180.
Yeah.
And red vinyl too.
I know, isn't that cute?
Oh, and it's got the Electra. It's got the Electra butterfly on there. Love that logo.
Yeah, I guess it actually, the description said it was orange with black smoke.
I didn't see the black smoke. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of orange.
Yeah, I know. I said red. I said red at first, but the description said it was orange, and so I'm going with that.
Yep. Hey, manufacturer specs, man. Got to do that.
Yeah, and this is weird too because it was like you can see that thing on the label, the LC, and then the serial number. It looks foreign. It looks like a European pressing.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it sort of does.
And but I guess that's how they did it. It was like a European, like it's listed as like this in conjunction with like a US, UK, Europe release.
Oh, okay.
But it's a limited edition. There's only 6,000 of them.
Oh,
so
that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm gonna get these fucking confused.
Yeah.
This one looks so good though, man. Oh, here's your
give me my dirty sack.
All right, are you ready to put this on? Are you ready to get into it?
Let's fucking do it. You know, I wanted to point out one thing.
Sure.
I wanted to point out one thing though about the artwork on this record. You know, that's obviously the way you hold it up. And
yeah.
I had this record for years before I realized this. But I never, you know, the photo is amazing. You know, it's Iggy Pop and then this sideways picture of James Williamson, the bass player. And you know, it kind of looks like flames or whatever.
Right.
And then one day I was stoned off my ass, and the record was leaning up, and then I realized that the lower part is a giant Iggy face.
Right.
And it was a fucking revelation, man. I was
right.
like, I'd
and
never
then
seen it before.
You open up the gatefold,
right,
and you realize, oh, it's a whole piece.
Right. And it was, I mean,
it's like a poster.
That's the thing too, is I didn't have my thing wasn't the gatefold, so I didn't have the, you know, I couldn't open it and be like, oh, that's what it is.
Right.
So it freaked me to freak out, man. It was awesome.
I don't know when I realized that either. But because I actually, the first copy of this FunHouse I ever had was on CD.
Yeah.
So
and even
I
that,
didn't
the
get
artwork
that.
is kind of small. You probably
yeah. I didn't see it at all until a long time afterwards. Probably like I'd see it in stores as repressings, like on vinyl or something, and I'd be like, oh, I see it now. Yeah. Or like you see on the computer, like all the research I did, I was just like, oh, you can see it a lot clearer here. Or they would just, you know, actually tilt it upwards because.
Right,
Elektra,
that's the weird thing
like
about the logo.
It's one of those shitty records where like you should actually be having it on its side as opposed to like the right way up, I guess.
I love that kind of shit about records, and especially, I mean, to me, when I talk about records, it's about vinyl.
Yeah.
The whole package, the artwork, the size, you know, the graphics. I mean, shit like that. Like when you have a record and you can find something in a photo of the record like years after you've had it. I don't know, maybe, like, once again, it goes back to maybe I'm slow, but but you know, shit like that I love, like little things like, you know, inscriptions on the run out grooves of the records, you know, like total record nerd stuff. I love that, and every record that I've been a part of and tried to make, I've tried to do little things like that. Like Six Finger Satellite, we were crazy about that stuff. We would do all sorts like artwork tweaks. You know, we did some run-out grooves of like loop run-out grooves and stuff like that. You know, and we just always wanted to mess with the listener and just make it like a, you know, like an experience. You know, which this record is definitely an experience. I mean, that when I first started FunHouse, man, it blew my mind, and it consistently does. It's a great record.
Yeah, I listened to it a few times now over the past couple of days, and every time it's just good. Like it's one of those records you just don't turn off.
Yeah.
If it's on, you just listen to the whole thing, and just because it's in its entirety, from start to finish, it's like perfect.
Yeah, it's like a complete piece. It's an album. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, but and few albums can actually even say that too. That like both sides are good.
Yes.
Maybe for different reasons, but both of them are still things that you want to hear completely.
Yep.
So, let's start it. Let's try it.
All right, let's do it.
What was your first experience with the Stooges?
This is a good story. My first experience with the Stooges was early in Six Finger Satellite. I was at a party of a bunch of Brown students.
The fuck, man.
Start it again, man. Fix it in the edit.
I don't know why it's so sensitive tonight, man. Like, I don't feel like it's always this sensitive.
Tone arm might need adjusting.
Oh, you know, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. I was cleaning it. I think I like fucking like just turned that anti-skating knob a little bit. I think.
Yeah, I could do it.
Fuck.
Yeah. Give it a whirl. See if it works.
Don't move a muscle.
I can't. When this record is playing, I can't. I'm frozen like a deer caught in the headlights.
I figured you might be the type to like thud your foot along with it, you know, like that fucking kick drum.
Yeah, normally I would, but
you can suppress.
I could suppress. Okay. Yeah, I've overcome those urges.
Yeah, but I can see how this would be like influence like you're playing, especially as a drummer. Like the first time I heard this, or at least when I started to soak it in, I was just like, damn it, he's just such a good drummer, and like just so like in the pocket, and he's like hitting hard, and it's just perfect groove. Yeah. I'm sure it helped that you know, his brother was a guitar player, and they grew up making music together. You know, learning how to play together. So that probably had a really big part of it. Plus, coming from Detroit and Ann Arbor, man, they had a lot of really awesome contemporaries. Going through. You know,
So
like
they were able
Motown,
to
right?
see a lot of great shows. I don't
Yeah.
think really they were too in tune with the Motown stuff, but you know, like the MC5,
Right.
Alice Cooper Band was based in Detroit for a while at that time. Bob Seger System. Have you ever heard any of those Bob Seger System records?
I haven't.
I say Bob Seger System, and everybody goes, "Oh, fucking Bob Seger, nah." But the Bob Seger System records are the early records that he made, like in the late '60s, early '70s, in Detroit. And the first few are really good, like really good garage rock kind of shit, you know, loud, brash,
you know, that's
somewhat psychedelic.
Yeah, that's one of those things that's like I just heard about it. I literally just heard about Bob Seger's early career.
Yeah.
And it's just like he's one of those guys that you're just like, you grow up kind of knowing the name because you hear him on the radio, and you never think twice about it. You're like, oh, he plays fucking Night Moves. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
But
Bob Seger System, Night Moves. No thanks.
Well, no, the Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band.
What the fuck?
That's Night Moves.
Yeah.
But yeah, then
Bob
I just
Seger
heard about
System.
System for the
You're
first
like,
time.
What
like,
the fuck, man? It's great stuff. I love when records do that too. They'll shatter your concept of a band or a musician that's based on your personal exposure at a certain point in time, you know, like that. Like you're really exposed to something. You're like, meh. But a lot of happening shit in Detroit, Ann Arbor at the time. Funkadelic.
That would contribute to some playing like this a little bit, you know.
Yeah, these guys definitely saw Funkadelic quite a few times. Ann Arbor used to have a blues festival every year too, with like tons of great bands. There's some great footage of Hound Dog Taylor playing one of them in like '73 or something. That's just totally fucking off the hook.
Yeah.
So good.
And when did Death record their record? Was that like '73?
Yeah, it was around then too. Yeah.
So it was like just after this, but like so they're kind of part of that too.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting story. That's one I gotta have.
The Death record.
I gotta do that one at some point.
Yeah.
I gotta get it. I don't know where I'm gonna find a copy of that. I know they reissued it recently. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna get my hands on one.
Yeah. Stories like that though, that shit is like, that's my bread and butter, man. You know, like a band that was around, nobody knew about them, and then like 40 years later they put the record out.
Yeah.
You know,
well, 'cause the weird part was how it was circulating, like just on like a dub tape level.
Yeah.
Like people just making copies of I don't even know what. Like I guess someone had the record at some point.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, like a band probably had rough mixes or something.
And just making copies of copies and just moving them all over the fucking world.
That's old. That's the old style, man.
Yeah. But it's amazing that it caught on finally, like, you know, more recently. I think it was like, 2008-ish something? It was like finally reissued, or
I think so, yeah.
Somewhere late 2000s, I think. But yeah, it's crazy. That's the way music works, right? Some of it, it's crazy how it does that.
And that's the thing, like you said, we kind of talked about outside earlier, about, you know, having time to listen to music and whatnot, and like listening to, say, the FunHouse,
the rarities.
That crazy box set that had every minute of the sessions.
Outtakes, right?
You know, my friend, or a few of my friends, try to get me into new music, like new bands and stuff, and they're like, you gotta check this band out, and I do, but there's always a part of me that thinks there are all these old records that are so fucking good that I still haven't heard yet, you know? Right. And I'm like, new band, or, you know, 1970s weird John Lee Hooker record.
Yeah.
And I always kind of wind up going to the
classics.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
I mean, there are some new bands out there that are good, that I've kind of found out about mainly through like social media stuff. But there's some interesting stuff going on out there, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is cool. But I don't know. the experience is just weird. It's different.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm getting older. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, at least it's easier to find the records right now.
It's true. Yeah. Thank you, internet.
And you can feel good. You can feel good being like, yeah, I'm helping this band out because they're still doing it. They're still out there and like trying to make a living off of it.
Yep. Absolutely.
So let's just talk a little bit about the band, the Stooges and FunHouse, just because it's been on my mind. I've been doing a little bit of research about it because I know the record and I know the music, but I don't know anything about the history of it. So Don Gallucci was the producer for this record. Do you know him?
Yeah.
Do you know his history, like kind of where he came from and
keyboardist for the Kingsmen.
Yeah.
Who did Louie Louie.
Right.
He was 14 years old when he recorded that.
That's amazing.
So he was like an industry kind of insider from the get-go,
Yeah.
I mean, did the whole Kingsman thing and then became like a staff producer for Elektra. Worked in California on a bunch of stuff. Yeah, it's an interesting story behind the record. How they went into the studio, tried to record it. Studio was like Elektra was a big label at the time. They mainly put out like folk stuff, so it was a very technologically advanced studio, lots of soundproofing and stuff like that.
Right.
And they went in and did. I think they only released. I think the sessions were only 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
May 11th to the 25th or something like that.
That's another thing I wanted to point out. They recorded this record in May, and then it was released in July. And if you put that's fucking unheard of nowadays. Like,
Really?
even if you're a big band, unless you're like Jack White and you own a pressing plant, you're in line to get your record pressed.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like it was where there were plants all over the place and they could just bang out millions of these things.
Right.
So like a vinyl release, it always goes down to vinyl for me for a record. I could care less about the rest of the stuff.
Right.
But that's like now it's like it's so hard to get shit pressed because there's a queue of bands trying to get stuff pressed.
Right. Yeah.
So unless you're a really large label or you're Jack White and you have a pressing plant,
Right.
shit ain't coming out in 2 months, man.
Right.
It just doesn't.
Well, especially to meet your demands. I mean, I guess it depends on like how many they actually pressed because this wasn't a commercially successful record.
Right.
It did worse than the first record.
Yeah.
So they charted in the top 100 for the first record, and this one didn't even make didn't make the 200s.
Awesome.
So
I love.
That's always been a question of mine. That's just like how many units do they make for a first pressing? Because there's a lot of like diehards and like audiophiles and stuff that want first pressings, like collector's sake or whatever. Pressings of records, and it's just like, well, how many are out there? What justifies those being so much more valuable?
Right. Well, I think with smaller independent labels, first pressings are a fairly small number because you don't really know what you're going to sell, so you order as little as you can because if you take a hit, you don't want to take a huge hit.
Of course.
But back then, major labels, I'm not sure. I mean, especially with all the payola shit going on and stuff like that, they could quite possibly have printed 1 million first pressings of something,
Right.
If you look into the whole payola thing of like record sales and shit in the 70s and stuff like that, they used to do crazy stuff with that, where they would inflate their worth, print up tons of records, chart losses, and then basically take like dump trucks full of vinyl records and just dump them into East Bay to get rid of the motherfuckers, like just totally garbage landfill style stuff.
Jesus.
Just to post the losses and line various people's pockets along the way.
Wow.
It's really crazy.
Yeah.
It's a nuts story. But who knows nowadays? I mean, vinyl's coming back, which is awesome. That's got the record store day thing and all that stuff.
Right.
I'm mixed. I have mixed feelings on like the reunion stuff. Did you see any of the Stooges?
No.
Reunion stuff? I didn't either. Because
I'm missing all of them. I haven't seen the Stooges. I didn't go see Shellac when they just came. I didn't see Big.
Oh yeah.
The Jesus Lizard. I didn't see them.
we saw them up in Boston when they came through. I'll
Yeah.
always go see those guys because
Yeah.
Satellite toured with those guys, and
Yeah.
we
I
had
heard
so
I
much
heard a
fun.
story.
What was the story?
I heard David Yao talking about you guys going on tour together, and
Yeah,
you guys kind of had like a fun little what is that called? Like pranking.
Yeah, we had like prank wars going
Prank
on.
wars.
It was pretty awesome. Yeah,
You
they
guys-
they broke us in because we were pretty young and still fairly new to not that new, but new to tour shenanigans, let's say.
Mhm.
And they just started off one time. They taped a belt of firecrackers to our van manifold, and if you do that and drive long enough, the manifold gets hot.
Oh yeah.
And that brick
Yes,
or
sorry.
belt of firecrackers goes off, and it sounds like you're being shot at. It's nuts.
Smoke coming out from under the hood.
Oh yeah, lots of flashing. It's nuts. And when you're driving like a rental van in like Tennessee, and that
On the
happens,
highway?
it freaks you out
Yeah.
considerably. So that was kind of the opening salvo of prank wars. So we did a bunch of stuff, and I remember one time being at a Waffle House, and I was sitting at the counter with a couple other guys, and a couple of the Jesus Lizard guys were sitting further down the counter, and the phone rang at the Waffle House, and somebody goes, Is Rick Pelletier here right now? Is Rick Pelletier here? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. So like, I get the phone or something like that, and one of the dudes from the Jesus Lizard was out at the payphone and called the place and started just harassing me, So I was sitting like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden everybody starts laughing, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I get it now, Silly shit like that. And
That's awesome.
I think the story you were talking about too was great. David Yao figured out that his key fit our van.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they went to a pet store one time and bought like 2,000 crickets and let them all loose in our van. But what he didn't realize was it was in LA in the summertime, so it was probably 200 degrees inside the van, and there were maybe 2 crickets that survived. So when he kept goading us on to be like, what's going on in your van, guys? Like,
Yeah.
is it loud in your van? Like,
Yeah.
you guys trying to get any sleep in your van or anything? And we're just like, what? What the fuck are you talking about? And then one day, like weeks later, we hear just a little like, just a sad little cricket just
Dying.
somewhere under
like-
the carpet, like surrounded by cricket corpses, just
Yeah.
pleading.
Oh my God,
It
that's
was
horrible.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Terrifying when you say it like that.
I know, huh? Yeah. I've never really had any feelings for crickets until now.
But that was
So sad.
their prank gone bad. Didn't really
That
go
was a
over
prank
as well
gone
as
bad,
they were hoping.
yeah. It
But
didn't
hey,
work
almost
out.
blowing up your engine is kind of
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
And they got us on countless other ones too that I can't even remember. But yeah, that was fun. That was a good time.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, the road stories, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
great.
we've every trick we learned from those guys, we passed on to every band that we went on tour with, and then picked up good pranks from those bands too.
Yeah.
That's
That's
part
awesome.
of beating the monotony on the road.
Yeah. That's hilarious. So we're almost done with the first side already.
Yeah, this
That was
road goes
quick.
by quick.
Yeah.
I mean, solid.
So I was going to ask you. So I was trying to bring up Don Colucci, right? What was I going to say about him? All right. So here's a question for you. So Don Colucci was basically assigned to the Stooges to produce this record. So they didn't seek him out or anything like that. He didn't have any idea what this band was going to be about, minus obviously going to see them play and say, okay, like how the fuck am I going to get this on tape? Have you in your career ever been in a situation where a label interfered and like assigned something to you, or gave you any, or just pressured you into making a decision at all?
Never. Thankfully, never.
Yeah.
But that was a rampant thing back in 1970, or
Oh yeah.
even up to
Well, especially with
even
these
up to
major
the
labels.
80s. Yeah, I mean they had like the engineer. The engineer is this guy
Oh.
Brian Ross Myring, and he was an old school technical engineer. The kind
Right.
of dudes that would dress up
Yeah.
to go to the studio to
Yeah.
work, and that was a huge thing, especially like you hear early records made in Britain and Europe. like Psychedelic Records and shit like that, where the technicians and the engineers just did not know how to deal with these bands, these rock bands and shit like that. So, you know, they're always telling you they want a controlled environment where they can get the most out of the sound because that's their technical expertise.
Right.
And like these guys would roll in and just be like, turn the shit up, you know? And especially for the Stooges, they were used to playing with Marshall stacks and super loud.
Right.
So they roll into a studio and it just sounded like shit. And they were like, we would just want to play like live, you know, which is kind of what they did for that. They stripped all the soundproofing out of the studio and set up like a live setup with a vocal PA. There's like there's a lot of mixed information out there on that record. And, you know, as far as what they did, whether the vocals were recorded through a mic'd PA or whether it was just, you know, the mic that Iggy was hand holding, which is relatively rare for tracking vocals in the studio, you know.
For sure.
And then playing with a Marshall stack in a room set to 10 at that time was, they were like, no, you know, like people would freaking leave their like quit their job over shit like that back then, you know. But it's an amazing feat that they pulled off this record, and it's great when you read about some of the guys talking about this record. They're like, yeah, it's kind of tame, you know, it's kind of didn't really capture what we were doing at the time. I wish I could have seen the Stooges live at the time, if that record doesn't capture their intensity. They must have been out in the fucking stratosphere as far as intensity goes.
Well, I was listening to an interview with Iggy Pop, or at least like, you know, some clips of what he was saying, how like at the time that this was released and they were playing these songs, you know, there was never anything like it. No one knew what to expect, and no one knew what to even consider what they witnessed. So most of them, he said, were like in shock. He was just like, either they walked out because they couldn't handle it, or they didn't want to see it. Or the people that did like it liked it silently. Like they just like didn't know how to react and had to like needed some like absorption time, and you know, didn't really appreciate it or get into it until later down the road.
Oh, way later. I don't think those records got put back in print until like mid 80s, and that was after Henry Rollins did a huge piece in Spin, I think about FunHouse. And the record suddenly got back in print. People started realizing how good it was, and it started selling again, you know. But I think the initial sales for the record was like 89,000, which is super low for a major label, you know.
Needless to say, they were dropped.
Not the first time they were dropped.
But yeah, I mean, it's a great record. So you never had any experience with that, like kind of being assigned something or being...
No, I mean the closest thing I could say to that being kind of handed something where you have some structure would be that Fred Schneider session. But like I said, I mean, they gave us demos of these songs and said, do what you want to do to them, you know. You can redo the arrangement, you can, you know, do whatever you want. Just as long as the words and the vocals, Fred can kind of put those in, you know. But by no means was it like a strict, this is what you do, you know. I mean, Steve was working on the record, so he was just like, he's like, I got you guys on this project because I know what you do it, you know. So I don't know how the hell bands would deal with that, you know. Major label bands who have image consultants and people picking out songs for them. It's a totally different game, man. I mean, it's apples and oranges.
That's when you're simply relying on your talent and just like, this is what they want from me and that's what I'm going to do. Like, then that's fine because they'll pay me handsomely.
I think it's more than a stone's throw away from any sort of creativity, though.
Exactly. No, because I mean, being in a band, I mean, you have to write the shit yourselves. You know, you're not relying on somebody just bringing you songs, being like, "Can you play this?" And then you record that, and then you go on a tour, do your thing.
I mean, that must be a fun job, though. I mean,
being the writer,
or being in a band that somebody just goes, "Here's all the shit. Just play drums, do this thing." I mean, I'd rather do that than work at a fucking 7-Eleven, that's for sure.
Well, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but like I said, it's apples and oranges for me anyway.
Mhm.
It's a different thing. I mean,
Yeah.
doing like punk and DIY stuff, it doesn't. The two worlds rarely cross over. I mean,
Right.
for us, it did when we were on Sub Pop. When Six Finger Satellite was on Sub Pop, it was a fairly big independent label.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, the Nirvana stuff had just fucking exploded, so the label had all sorts of money, which we took full advantage of. I still get royalty statements, and Six Finger Satellite still owes Sub Pop Records in the sum of $241,000
What? Why?
because we took advances on the records to build the studios or to make the records, and that's all recuperable against royalties. And when you're talking about Six Finger Satellite royalties, you're not really talking about royalties.
Well, then I'm surprised they haven't reissued it just to try. Oh, because they have to put the money into.
They got to put the money into it. They're not selling
press
the
it.
back catalog that they still have. You know, they still have probably copies of Paranormalized and
Really?
Law of Ruins in the way back of their fucking warehouse.
Then they
you know,
should put them out.
I've talked to people at the label before through email. You know, I know John McClain has talked to John Poneman, the owner, about some stuff. You know, and I don't know, man. I mean, if nobody wants to put it out, that's fine. I mean, we did it for that time, and
Well,
we
because
put the records
if
out,
they
but-
have copies of it, that's the thing. I mean, it's not like.
Well, that's the thing. Some people ask me like, "Oh shit, I really want a copy of Paranormalized." I'm like, "Go on subpop.com. They probably have a fucking copy," and they usually do.
Huh.
I think the only thing that's super hard to get is the Severe Exposure record.
Yeah.
You know, but most of those other records, you can. I'll bet the house on it that you can find sealed copies of those records in places, and probably at either Sub Pop Records or one of their distributors. You know.
Okay. I'll look into it because I'm curious. I mean, I would love to pick up some copies, especially if it's directly from them. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd rather pick it up directly from you.
Yeah,
But if you
well,
don't have them, then
Man, I think I have one copy of each record.
well,
I
those are
used-
your copies.
Yeah.
You know.
I used
You
to
don't want
have,
those
but I
ones.
used to have like I'd save every record that I have. I'd save like maybe 5 for archives,
Mm-hmm.
and that shit's all gone. You know.
Yeah.
Especially when, you know, I remember one time we were on tour and there was this dude. He was a really great good dude. He let us stay at his house and all this shit. He was talking about the first EP that we put out, and I think he was up in Seattle. And he's like, "That Weapon EP, man, I love that thing." So the second time we came around the country, I brought him a personal copy of mine, and we stayed at his house again, and I gave him the copy, and you know, we hung out. It was a great time. And then I see the guy at South by Southwest, like decades later. He's in Austin, and he was putting on they put on like the alternatives South by Southwest, like fuck South by Southwest Fest, where they'll have, you know, shows in people's yards and stuff.
Yeah.
So we roll into this place, and I see this dude, and I'm like, "Dude, what the fuck, motherfucker?" You know, we're catching up, and it was awesome, you know. And and out of the blue, the guy goes, "Hey, man, I just want to let you know, I really appreciate that record that you brought me, you know, and you know, I think like I made some stupid drawing in it or something like that." So he's like, "Yeah, it was really great that you did that." He's like, "But I just want to fess up, man. When I moved out of Seattle and came down to Austin, like I had to sell everything that I had, so I kind of sold that record, man. I feel really bad." And he was genuinely like, you know,
Yeah.
felt
I bet.
remorseful, and I was like, "Dude, don't worry about it, you know, like it's just a record. It's just a record, man." He's like, "Yeah, but oh man," it's like, "Yeah, that's cool. Maybe I'll send you another one." It's like looking at him like, "No, nothing."
Yeah, I guess it's harder to come by now, but
Yeah,
it's going to be
Jesus,
out
yeah.
again now. It's
Yeah.
going to be repressed.
And it'll have the other EP on it too.
That's
so,
cool.
Yeah.
That's
Should be
funny. Yeah, that's the thing I do now is that I have no sentimental attachment to music anymore, as
Yeah.
far as physical copies
Physical,
are concerned.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's just
I
like
wish I could be the same.
well, with the business it's fun because I just kind of have to have this rotation coming
Right.
through.
So it's like transient kind of thing where you,
Yeah, like when I was talking.
No, that's a good way to collect actually, to pass it on.
Well, because
you
I get to
know.
listen to it.
And,
I
yeah.
just get to experience it. I do the whole thing, man. It's like it comes to me, or I bring it home and I open it up and I look at it, and then I do the research, and I'm like, okay, what pressing
Yeah.
is this? What year is this from? All that stuff.
Yep.
And then, you know, so now I know those records really well.
Yeah. No, that's a good way to learn about the records. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Getting back to your your how did you put it? The music
Being filed away.
No, as doesn't have a sentimental value.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. For me, it kind of does, because a lot of records that I have in my collection, I mean, I can remember the record store that I bought it at. I can remember the tours that I was on when I bought the record, or I can remember what friend gave me that record.
Right.
You know?
No,
so there's
different.
a lot of other memories that are associated with that. I mean, it's pretty deep, where I can hear a song on the radio or something and it takes me right back to that vibe or that summer or that person, you know. That's one of the great, things about music, that it can open up your brain in that way, you know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And I think that's the part that I didn't say, was that the only stuff I hold on to now is stuff that people give me.
Right.
Friends, or stuff that I've been buying from that is released by friends. Right. You know, like I got the new Psychic Graveyard, I got the Doomsday Student record that I've been putting off forever, and all that stuff. And it's just like, I'll buy these, and I'm going to hold on to these.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yep. That's
so it's
great.
like I have a very small collection now, because I sold off my collections twice now in my life.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like mostly CDs, like, because I didn't get into vinyl until recently. So it was no major loss, but at the same time, all those memories, all those experiences that I had are now gone, and I'm like, I don't want to redo it.
Yeah, no, I'd probably be the same way. And a couple of years ago, I was thinking about selling my entire collection. It was one of those things. It was like an albatross around my neck. And I've moved a lot of times in my life, so the physical aspect of having a vinyl collection is a lot of big, heavy boxes that have to be moved, and depending on how organized you are, filed, and after a while, I just being in a kind of bad headspace, I was just like, you know what, I don't even want to fucking deal with this shit anymore. Like, just I don't need all this stuff. I don't need the records. I don't need the tactile sense. But then you kind of, the cloud lifts and you start going through records and they start making you feel better, and you start bonding with them again, and you're like, I can't. Nah. It's so, it's like having a public library down the street and then using it a lot, and then just being like, I'm not going to go to that public library anymore, and that public library, for all intents and purposes, just ceases to exist. Only that library is in your house.
Right.
And you're like, I'm just going to sell this for money, which you're going to piss away on bills and stupid life expenses. But if you're having a bad day or a bad week, it's pretty awesome to be like, shit, man, I'm gonna go grab that Can record and put it on and mellow the fuck out. You know?
Right.
That's a good reason to have a collection of vinyl, or a collection of music, or a collection of books or art. Anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you got me there.
But on the same token, or the other side of the argument, I should say, if you really want to hear that stuff, the internet's there.
It's true.
And you can, like, music is readily available on the internet, people tell me.
Yeah, surprisingly.
So I mean, it's not all lost. It's still there. It's still out there, and accessible.
True. So like you said, it's the memory, it's just the experience of like bringing it home for the first time. Someone gives you something.
Right.
Even CDRs or like, mixtapes or whatever, so it's like someone gave that to you and you hold on to that. Yeah.
And then it takes you back to the time that you played the shit out of it that one summer, and you were hanging out with those 3 people, and that's what you did, and it it's great. Like, the transformative power of music is so great like that.
Yeah. It's great, man. Great way to put it. Let's move on to side 2
and get loose.
Yeah, man. How do you feel about side 2? Oh, this is the side you like, right?
This, well,
because of the horns and all that.
I like both sides of this record. The first Stooges record, I only like one side. This record, I like both sides. But this side is definitely more of the first side is kind of like the kind of climbing the hill side, and then this side is just the fucking bottom drops out side, which is great. I mean, they started off in 1970, which is pretty happy, upbeat kind of.
That's a good one.
Bo Diddley style, kind of shit, but then it gets
Gets gnarly.
it's dark and ugly,
Yeah.
which is good.
Gets a little too loose almost. But in a good way. I mean, because it's obviously like a big jazz influence thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Jazz mostly, I
these
guess
guys,
you could say.
these guys were listening to a lot of John Coltrane at the time.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. But at the time, I mean, could you imagine, this stuff? Because that was the other thing I was looking at. This was released in 1970.
Mm-hmm.
So like, to put it into perspective, some of the other records that were released in 1970 were Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water.
Oh yeah.
Crosby, Stills and Nash, Deja Vu, the Beatles, Let It Be. But also there was the Velvet Underground, Loaded came out. MC5 Back in the USA was out that year. The first Funkadelic record came out in 1970.
The first one, really?
First one.
Oh
yep.
wow.
The Captain Beefheart, Lick My Decals Off Baby record was released in 1970. So, and that's just kind of on the fringe of stuff.
Yeah.
But, the actual top 40 shit that was being released at the time in 1970 was like bubblegum shit. So
Right.
people must have been fucking scared out of their ass hearing. Can you imagine like some you're living in an apartment somewhere in Michigan or whatever, and some random young kids come in and put this record on in your like second floor apartment, and you have no frame of reference for it, and you hear it, you're gonna be like, what the fuck are they killing somebody up there? Like,
Yeah, huh?
I mean, at the time it was revolutionary.
Oh yeah.
There wasn't too many reference points for this kind of stuff in 1970.
There wasn't anything like this up until they made it.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why they get that label, which I kept on hearing that label, and I was just like, I fucking hate this label. I don't understand it. I don't know why they're called this. And then it finally struck me, it was protopunk
Yeah.
being, I guess, the prototype of punk music.
Right.
Because there was no punk.
Shitload of a lot of the early punk bands, did more than they could to emulate the Stooges.
Right.
This song, the first time I heard this song was, did you ever hear the band Hanoi Rocks?
No, I never
They
listened
were
to
like a
them.
Scandinavian like hair metal band from the 80s.
Right.
And I had like a bootleg cassette of one of their records, and this song was on it. And this was before I knew who the Stooges were.
They covered this song?
And they covered the song, yeah. I
Oh.
think they called it like I Feel Alright. But it was pretty good for, being a 14-year-old kid not knowing who the Stooges were.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, cool, Stooges, right on.
So what were you growing up with, like music wise?
Well, all my brothers and sisters were older than I was, so I heard a lot of, rock stuff from like the 70s.
Yeah. But some more of that like top 40 type stuff you were listing off, like the Simon and Garfunkel and the Grateful Dead, maybe.
Yeah.
Working.
Yeah, no, my family never really got into the Dead, but like Zeppelin and the Beatles and Fleetwood Mac, stuff like that was around when I was young, and then I got into like kind of glam metal and hair metal in the early '80s.
So that was kind of all on you, huh? Like to get those influences, like that harder rock stuff.
I guess so. Yeah.
Because if your older siblings were just kind of listening to like the mostly radio rock stuff.
Yeah. I think when I was a teenager and I discovered like what I called metal, I was like, whoa, what the fuck's this?
Yeah. And that was
it was far from fucking metal, but
Pre-Metallica. That was like Metallica came out late '79 maybe.
Well, what? Which record?
Their first record.
The Metallica?
Yeah.
No, that was 80 or
80,
early to mid 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still, like right around there. So it's like obviously you had a few years before that kind of metal.
Yeah.
Came around.
Yeah. I mean, through that stuff I discovered like, hardcore and punk rock through like skateboarding and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, so I was exposed to Sex Pistols and Sonic Youth and like all the SST stuff, Black Flag and stuff like that. But I still never really heard a Stooges record until, I think you asked me this maybe right before we went outside. Or I told you this story already.
Yeah, your first experience with the Stooges.
With the Stooges.
Yeah.
Did I tell the story or did we cut it off?
I think maybe we stopped right there.
Right, so the Stooges, so I hadn't heard the Stooges, so we went to this party one time, Six Finger Satellite guys, and we go to this party. It's all a bunch of Brown students, right? And somebody was playing the Stooges' "I Got a Right" 7-inch. That's on Bomp. It's like from the James Williamson stuff, you know.
Okay.
Great song.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there grooving to it, right? And I'm like, this is fucking rad. This is so awesome. And I'm sitting there, and there's this dude sitting next to me, and I went, this is fucking great. I was like, who is this? And the guy looked at me and he goes, it's fucking Stooges. What? Like, had this look of disgust on his face, you know? And here I am, like a fucking 19-year-old, you know, towny dude from Tiverton.
Right.
Just started playing in bands in Providence, and this guy's just like what the fuck? It's the fucking Stooges. You a moron?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh no, wow, thanks, Stooges, great, you know. So I looked at the sleeve and I'm like, this is awesome, and I left shortly after because I was just, you know,
so ashamed, right?
Just ashamed that I was just such a dummy. And then come to find out, I met the guy later, and the dude who said that to me was this guy. I don't know if he went to Brown, but this dude, what the fuck is his name? He's the guy that does like the Bonnie Prince Billy stuff on Drag City. Shit, what the hell was his name?
What, like producer, record distributor?
No, he's a musician guy.
He plays.
He does like Will Oldham. That was the dude. Will Oldham said to me, "It's a fucking Stooges, man." What? I'm like, oh, so this dude Will Oldham, who's a fairly popular indie rock dude, you know?
Yeah, I know him. Well, I mean, I'm familiar with his music.
Yeah. And I just found that fucking hilarious.
Now, looking back at it now, I mean,
that dude just
he wasn't
eviscerated this
in
young,
at that time, I'm sure, right?
Dumb teenager.
Well, you must have had your experience being like, it's the Stooges, dude. Like,
it's the fucking Stooges.
It.
No, I learned by that lesson, and when people would ask me, I would genuinely.
You sit them down very gently, be like, "This is the Stooges. This is the record.
Okay, sit down.
Look, you want to get this one first.
This is going to change your life. So listen to me closely. You know, I'm not going to shame someone into listening to the Stooges.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take them by the hand and be like, your life is going to change after you listen to this. And you may or may not thank me for it.
Yeah. Well, at least you're gentle about it.
Hey, man, life's too short to be a fucking dickhead.
True. Well, Will Oldham will hopefully learn that lesson.
Yeah,
maybe
he's
he
laughing all the way to the bank.
I appreciate your notebook.
Thanks. I felt like I had to do a little research. I didn't want to come open-handed. I mean, empty-handed.
Empty-handed. Yeah, well, I figured you would know this record well enough anyway. I mean, like, I know it by listening to it. I don't, and I do some research, obviously, like, as needed. But,
see, I kind of like getting into the nitty-gritty of records.
Yeah.
Once again, being like a record kind of nerd, you know? Like, I'm envious of your situation of selling stuff and doing like all the research on it before you sell it.
Yeah.
You know, that's a cool little obsession to have that's not hurtful to anyone, you know?
Yeah.
But it's cool because you learn a lot of stuff.
It's true.
You know, like today, I was just doing research and learned a bunch of shit about the record that I never really dug that deep into. So, you know, thanks for re-exposing me to this record, man. No,
it's the same for me.
It's a great thing.
I mean, I feel the feeling is mutual because I never really thought about it. I've just never, like, as being a music fan, I never really thought about like what was going on exactly at the time. Like, at most, my delving would be, oh, like, who produced it, where did they record it, and when was it released. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And then
The basics, you know.
Yeah. But I guess maybe it's just that information is so much more accessible now that it kind of like, it makes it easy to just like be like, you have a question about anything and you're like, oh yeah, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, that's what I had. That's what they did. So
it's good and it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of cool. Then obviously the whole realtor aspect of it being like, okay, well, let me put a price on this now. You know, let me do the comps.
Yeah.
Let me like put this next to, okay, so this is 2017 compared to like, you know, your 1984, I'm going to assume.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, what kind of condition, put them like side by side or whatever and all that shit. And it's just like, it's kind of weird. It's very strange.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of goes back to like the record store clerk.
Except I don't have to deal with people on a regular basis.
Right, which is a good thing, you know. But then people also don't really have to deal with you.
It's true.
Which, you know, so even today, some record clerks can be arrogant.
Oh yeah,
sons of bitches.
Right.
You know? Which I'm sure is bred from serving a bunch of dummies, you know, who just don't really know what they want or whatever, you know.
Right.
I mean, it's like any service industry job, you know, you're gonna have your fair share of dummies that you got to deal with. And
but with the music clerk, they have a sense of entitlement. Because
sometimes
they got to this path way before you did.
Yes.
You know, and that's kind of like the whole Will Oldham story. Is just like, he's just like appalled that you didn't know who the fucking Stooges were because they've been around since 1970, man.
Right.
Where have you been?
Yeah. That's tough to deal with any personality or any, you know, person behind a counter anywhere, you know.
So luckily I'm not developing that.
That's a good thing. That's a trait you don't want to develop.
No, I'm hoping.
See, my wife worked at record stores a lot, and she has some good stories, and but she also does some resales too, and she's trying to sell this. Do you know the Charles Manson record, Lie, something Death Cult or something like that? Right. She has like a first pressing copy of that, and she's trying to sell it, but she went on Discogs. And there are some copies that are really expensive, and then some copies that are selling for like $100. And even though she has experience in record sales, she's having a hard time dating this because there's
no accurate information about the runouts or something like that.
Yeah, but then also like sales versus, you know how like some people will list a record for $900, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's worth $900.
Right.
So like the information that's out there isn't quite as concise. That's another thing about the internet. I mean, it's like, yeah, you can type in, you know, a question about anything, but are the answers right?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that because, you know, most of my research as far as like cataloging these records is concerned comes off of Discogs, and Discogs is like Wikipedia.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like
that is a really good resource.
It is.
It's an amazing resource.
But just like you're saying, how accurate is that information? Because it's just coming from people who are submitting the information.
Right.
You know, and they're just saying
there's no editing on the internet. You know, there's really nobody's going through fact checking shit.
Right.
Which you have to be careful of. But this sums up. This is so good. I've been in so many bands that have just copped this song, you know.
You just get to that point in your set, you mean?
Oh yeah.
Not
Satellite used to do it all the time.
Yeah.
It would just be like end of the set, LA Blues style without the saxophone, you know.
Moog instead.
So good, so fun to do.
Yeah.
You know, especially after you just blast out a concise set, and then you just launch into complete mayhem.
Yeah. Right.
It's a good way to clear a room too. Which
that's what this record or this half of the record is good for. This is you want to clear a room, you put this on.
I think I was reading about this track. The original idea for this track was they wanted to do a live recording of this, of everyone going nuts, but like an obvious live recording, you know, like two mics in a club or a room, and they wanted it to cut right from FunHouse into that, and I guess they got flack from like the executives, and they were like, you can't, like in 1970, they're like, you can't have, you know, an entire record of studio tracks and then cut to a live track.
Right.
Like it'd be
Does
too
sound
jarring.
weird. Yeah.
It's just not done. So they wound up having to compromise and do this in the studio, and Ron Ashton was like, you know, you're trying to improvise and go nuts, but you're in, you know, fluorescent lights and
Right.
trying to cut loose while the tape's recording, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sort of
strange environment.
Puts some boundaries on something that maybe
Right.
shouldn't have boundaries. But it still works.
Hmm.
It still
Yeah.
works.
Oh, it's great. I mean, I like noise rock music, and this, I would probably not listen to this song. Like if I put this record on,
Yeah.
I'll just be like, okay, I can do without it.
Yeah.
It's like I got my fix. It's like I got my cookie. I'm good. You know,
Right,
it's
right.
just like,
Oh,
you
this is
could just-
definitely an I'm good song. You either love it or you hate it. It's not,
Yeah.
you know, it's not like, I'm gonna break out the FunHouse record and put on,
Yeah,
you know, LA Blues.
only
No.
LA Blues.
No.
Just feel like that right now.
Yeah. This is like, if you sat through the whole record, it's like, you know, the icing on the shit cake, you know. It's
Yeah.
like, it's good. It's good, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, listening to the whole record, I'm good listening to it, like, at the end. But yeah, it's not a track you put on.
No, I mean, if you're listening to this in the car,
Yeah.
you're definitely skipping over LA
Oh,
Blues,
yeah.
you know.
Especially if you're already mad. If you're already stuck in traffic, you're like, no.
Yeah, no, that would be bad.
No, I gotta-
bad news.
That'd actually almost be even worse to, like, start this record off, like, being stuck in traffic. It's like I can't move, like,
Yeah, that would be
nothing's
great.
happening.
You'd be such a...
It's just-
Your wife would love you when you drove into the driveway, you know. You'd just come out of the car all sweaty and pissed off.
Yeah.
What have you been doing? I've been in traffic listening to FunHouse. Draw my bath.
Wow. Yeah. Then what do you put on for the bath? What would you switch over to?
Who would I switch over to for the bath after this? After this, I think I would put on Miles Davis' Kind of Blue for the bath.
Wow.
That'd be a good bath.
Classy bath too.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I don't know. I just put on whatever these days. It's just like I have so much stuff that I have to go through. I'm just like, okay, well, I'm gonna put this on today.
Yeah.
Just listen to it, see what happens.
Right.
You know? It's nothing stuff. It's not great stuff. Like it's just stuff that I never
Right.
would put on.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. I mean, that's good that you can do that. I mean, I'm trying to do that more. I've been using Apple Music.
Oh yeah.
And just because I hate Spotify, and I've heard horrible things about how they really don't pay artists. Not that Apple pays their artists, but
Yeah.
they seem a little bit more upfront about it than Spotify is.
Well, didn't our neighbor now, Taylor Swift? She fought him.
Did she?
Didn't she? And I believe she won. I don't know if
Spotify, yeah.
she won for herself. No, Apple.
Apple. Oh yeah. No,
oh, but
I
it's
don't-
all going the way of the dodo anyway. iTunes is
iTunes
dying.
is done. Yeah, but Apple Music
Oh, true.
is something else.
Just streaming like the
streaming.
radio.
But it's great because, you know, I've been using that and looking up records that I could never find, you know, or that I've never been able to
And they have it,
buy.
and you can play it.
And they have it. They have some pretty far out records on
Oh.
Apple Music, which is cool.
Wow.
You know, and tons of classic records that on major labels that maybe you wouldn't find, or you wouldn't find one in good shape or something, you know,
Yeah.
or something that you just want to hear two songs
Right.
off.
You just want to listen to it.
And-
I
yeah.
mean, it's
Which
not like
is-
you necessarily want to make the investment to buy it or whatever, or you have a copy and just you're taking it to go. You know.
Right, right. I mean, there's a cool thing about that.
Right.
As far as experiencing new music, and a lot of times if I find something that's amazing, like I was listening to this band NRBQ and their very first LP, which I think is self-titled,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to get a vinyl copy of it because it just blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
You know, I was like,
Aren't they like a jammy band?
they were like this jammy party band, sort of, but oh no,
It's a couple drops.
but their first record was really weird. I mean, there's a Sun Ra cover on it. They do a cover of Rocket Number 9 on it, and it's just kind of weird and, you know, sort of country, sort of jazzy. It's got some, hands down, like the best Telecaster guitar playing on it ever. but stuff like that I'll hear and just be so psyched about that I'll go out and buy the record.
Yeah.
To have the vinyl, you know.
Right.
Because I'm a record nerd.
So how do you feel about reissues? Because a record like that, I'm imagining, is probably not too easy to come around, especially if you're going to the stores.
Yeah, that record I don't think has been reissued on vinyl yet, and it came out in like 1969 or something.
Right.
And so yeah, it was a hard to find record, and it wasn't cheap, but it's something that I've played. I've already paid. It's paid for itself for the amount of times I've put it on the turntable. You know. But it's it's a good thing to find new stuff and just expand your horizons if you live under a rock like I tend to.
Yeah, no, me too, man. Seriously, I mean, I don't even go out to the stores to explore anymore. It's all just kind of like doing the research online.
A lot of it too is like what hits you, a mood. Like sometimes a mood will hit you and you'll be like, think like the other day I was just like, I'm gonna listen to some Black Sabbath, and I just listened to like all the Black Sabbath records like in one day, and was so psyched, Yeah. And then I downloaded a couple of tracks that I wanted to hear, and that are on a playlist now that come up every day or two, like, and I'll just be like, great, all right, Sabbath,
Right.
I mean, it's kind of hard to do when you're looking at this wall of all these very tiny spines on vinyl and be like,
Yeah.
Let me see. I think I'm going to put the Laughing Hyenas on today.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, where is it?
Right. You alphabetize?
I have a very bizarre filing system.
Oh, okay.
I have kind of like, one shelf is kind of punk and indie rock. One shelf is major label kind of rock. Then I have a country section. I have a dub reggae section. I have a hip hop section. I have a blues, soul, and disco section. And then I have a dog pound, which is just usually uncharacterizable records, soundtracks, bizarre stuff, Morton Subotnick records, Salvation Army finds,
The miscellaneous.
Yeah.
The
Stuff
Land of Misfit Toys kind of.
Sometimes like somebody would be like, hey, I heard you collect records. I just cleaned out my attic, and they'll hand you like 10 dusty records from 1974 or something. I'm like, well, what the hell, I can't sell these. This dude like went out of his way to give them to me, so it goes in the dog pile. But
who knows, might find some little gem in there.
Yeah, some of those records have surprised me, absolutely.
Even for moments, just for putting it on and being like, oh, that's weird, that was a weird thing I wasn't expecting.
Yeah great stuff.
So let's see. We should probably wrap this up.
Yeah, sure.
What do you need to promote? Just the record Oceans of the Moon coming out?
Yeah, we have Oceans of the Moon. We are putting out a record that is self-titled on Castleface Records. It's coming out
John Dwyer's label.
John Dwyer of OCs and just countless other bands. Now there's a dude, John Dwyer, who, like, I love the guy like a brother. Been in bands with him. He's awesome. Motherfucker, he is an overachiever, man. He makes the rest of us look bad. He really does. Like,
there's always one at least, right?
Yeah, I know. It's like, dude, just chill out, Like, you don't have to make 4 records in a year. Like, 4 good records.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, you really?
It's just one of those welts, You just it's like one of those people that are just such a weird like savant that they just cannot help but to produce.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so impressive to me, like his output and his stamina. The fact that dude still tours like crazy. I mean, and the fact that he's doing stuff that's interesting and pushing boundaries and is pulling in listeners, like, that is fantastic. Like, right. I'm so psyched to be putting out this record with and through him.
Yeah.
And the guy Matt Jones, who also runs the label with him, who I deal with, they're just fantastic people, great to work with. You know, we'll see how it does. We'll throw it out there and see what happens.
Sounds great, man. I'm really looking forward to hearing it. And so
like
you're not doing any touring?
Nothing planned yet.
Nothing planned yet, but you're thinking you might try to.
Yeah, we're
figure something
open.
out.
We're open to some stuff. You know, call me.
Yeah, I mean, because you don't do many shows as it is currently. Like, yeah, you actually opened up for the OCs. What was that, back a few months ago? No,
Oceans
October.
of the Moon opened for them about a year ago.
Right.
At Warsaw, and then last fall, Landed played 2 shows, and I played those shows with them too.
Oh,
at
okay.
Warsaw, same place.
Right.
It was great.
Yeah, because that's
great.
actually Dan came on to do that
yeah.
show.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it
was like
almost a
October or
year.
something.
Yeah, little less.
Yeah.
But well,
That was a good time. A load of fun. Those
Okay.
guys, Dan, and then the other dudes in Landed, good dudes. But that's about all I'm plugging is the record.
for now.
And then the Ben Barnett might be putting out that 6-finger satellite thing
That's cool.
coming out.
So no official date for
no
that.
official
or
date yet. No.
It's just in the works right now.
Yeah, it's been in the works for like 5 years.
All right, so.
But it's one of those things, you know. It's like, where do you find the fucking time?
Well, I mean, those are what those guys do, right? They put out records.
Yeah, but
So-
they got stuff going on too, you know.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing. It's like you start doing work for past stuff, and it's like, what about new stuff? You know. That's why, like, the satellite reissues and shit, I'm like, I don't give a shit, man. We did it. It's out there.
Yeah.
It's not like we're gonna get back together and do a fucking world tour to support new records. No,
Right.
they couldn't pay me enough for that.
Really? Well, it'd have to be a pretty big offer.
Everybody has their price.
It'd have to be a pretty big
No,
offer.
they. I have a number, but
Well, because you have
I'd
everyone
never
else to
see
think
it.
about too. It's not just you. It's not
Well,
your
that's the
decision.
thing, yeah. I mean, you'd have 4 other guys, and their families. That's the thing now. You know, back when you're in your 20s, it's like you against the world. Or you and a girlfriend maybe against the world, or
Right.
you and your band against the world. But now it's like you and your family and the people that depend on you. You know.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Everything else goes to the wayside, unfortunately.
yeah.
I mean, not always, but it just makes it a lot harder. A lot harder.
Yeah. I mean, if it comes down to family and anything else, the smart person's gonna pick family. You know.
Right.
The-
The non-narcissistic piece of shit is gonna
It's
choose
gonna-
his family.
yeah. Sure.
Yeah. No, I mean that's an extreme case, but
But you know, I don't know. I'm glad that we're putting this record out. I'll be psyched to put out to do some shows behind it. You know, maybe do some touring.
yeah.
You know, but I don't know. I figure the next thing will probably be in the works in I don't know, 10 or 15 years maybe.
Just keep putting records out. You know, that's the thing, man. Is just
Yeah.
like touring is just like it's kind of obsolete anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
you can still promote without touring. I mean, it's
yeah.
not great. I mean, you want to do some shows, but
Right.
it's still a possibility. And
Oh, sure.
if you just have that thing, like you were saying about John Dwyer, how he just keeps on putting records out, he just like keeps on making the stuff, just won't stop.
Yeah.
Go ahead and put it out. If
Oh,
you have someone that'll put it out for you, especially,
Oh, absolutely.
makes it a lot easier.
Oh, sure. If he didn't offer to put that record out, that thing would be sitting, you know, it would be sitting right now, probably.
Right.
And I'd be on to the next thing.
Yeah.
You know, and we'd be doing another record that may or may not come out ever.
That's okay.
But that's just kind of, you know, that's kind of the MO that I have.
Yeah.
It seems to work.
I think so. Can I just tell you, it's been a pleasure talking to you. You're a badass motherfucker, and I've never been able to talk to you before, so this has been really cool, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
It's been a lot of fun.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.